Hey everyone, so we have some really exciting news. Just a few hours ago, the House released a brand new stimulus bill, which is valued at $3 trillion and also known as the HEROES Act. And frankly, this bill is absolutely massive at over 1,800 pages, and there includes an entire list of different groups that'll benefit from this bill if it passes. We're going to be talking about that in this video, but here are some of the groups that will benefit. First off, everyone who received a stimulus check before will receive another stimulus check equal to that stimulus check that they previously received. State and local governments could receive $1 trillion in order to plug the budget deficit holes that they are all facing. And those individuals that are unemployed and are receiving that additional $600 per week in pandemic unemployment insurance will receive that all the way until January of next year, not just until July of this year. Those are just some of the major points in this bill. We're going to be breaking it down in this video, so be sure to stick around. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this proposal and whether or not you think it will pass. My name is Kevin Conway. I make personal finance videos like this one all the time, and I give you the latest news and developments on these stimulus bills and proposals that are making their way through the government now. So if you want to stay informed, be sure to subscribe to the channel and give a quick like to the video if it helped you out in any way. I'd really appreciate it. Now let's get right into it. If you've been following the news at all, you know that a lot of stimulus proposals have really just been that, proposals. Nothing has really moved forward since the CARES Act. But this time is different, and here's why. Because the House of Representatives was the body that actually put forward the legislation that became the CARES Act. Same too with this bill, the HEROES Act. And for what it's worth, the HEROES Act was actually brought forward by Nancy Pelosi, who has tremendous power in the House of Representatives and has been in government for a very long time. I think for that simple reason, this bill is going to get a lot more attention and a lot more traction than previous bills that have been introduced in the past. And as we're going to go into, a lot of these provisions are simply extensions of the CARES Act, just simply applied once again or for a longer period of time. The HEROES Act, otherwise known as the Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions Act, is a bill that has a lot of parts to it. So let's start with the most fun part, the stimulus checks. In this bill is a second round of stimulus checks of $1,200 per adult. And here's where the change is, $1,200 per dependent child. So this is different for really two reasons. Number one, in the CARES Act, you only got $500 per child. And in this act, you're gonna get $1,200. And the way they calculate who is a child or a dependent child for the purposes of the HEROES Act is different than the CARES Act insofar as it borrows the exact same language from the child tax credit. That means more people are going to be dependent under this framework. Additionally, the definition of dependent is actually expanded under this framework to include those who are not just children. It also includes those people who are in college or even adults that you are taking care of and that qualify as a dependent on your tax return. They too would receive this $1,200. With all of this being said, it is capped at 3 dependents per family. So this means a maximum of 5 people could be receiving that $1,200 each, or $6,000 per family in stimulus payments. Additionally, these stimulus checks would be exempt from having other creditors take them away from you. For example, if you owed a debt, you would not have to send that money over once it hit your bank account to that creditor. Now, for the purposes of this stimulus check, those income thresholds still apply. That is $75,000 for individuals or $150,000 for married couples filing jointly, and then it is scaled down all the way until the additional threshold. So by and large, it's going to mirror the CARES Act insofar as who qualifies. And a few more things about these checks. If you're on Social Security, disability, railroad retirement benefits, veterans benefits, any one of those categories, then this law specifically put in here that the payments should be automatic. There's nothing that you will need to do in order to receive this payment. Also, one other thing, in the previous bill, if your spouse did not have a Social Security number, but you did, you got nothing. In this bill, it totally erases that. If one of you has a social and you file jointly, you will receive your stimulus checks. And one last thing, there's going to be no signature or letter from the president or Congress or any political body on this check. It's just going to be a check. It's not going to have a signature from the president. It's not going to have a letter from Congress. None of that at all. It's just going to be a straight check. All right, moving on to the unemployment benefits. If you are on those unemployment benefits and you're getting those additional $600 per week in pandemic unemployment insurance, then you can expect to receive, if this bill passes, that $600 per week all the way until January 31st of 2021, provided that you are still on unemployment insurance. Previously, and as is in effect right now, that $600 per week in additional unemployment insurance is scheduled to end on July 31st of 2020. Additionally, the unemployment insurance expansion also includes an additional 13 weeks on top of your state unemployment insurance benefits as an extension to those state unemployment insurance benefits, and this bill would expand that all the way until March of next year to be effective, as opposed to expiring no matter when you started in December of this year. The same idea is with those independent contractors and self-employed individuals. They would still qualify for unemployment insurance all the way until March of next year, whereas right now that is scheduled to end as a classification that counts for unemployment insurance at the end of 2020. All right, moving on to some of the other interesting pieces to this bill. And again, this bill is absolutely enormous. There's so much to it, so I'm missing a lot of things, but I'm just trying to cover the main points here. If you're a small business owner who got a PPP loan, this bill would actually eliminate the requirement for you to spend it within 8 weeks. It actually extends that all the way until the end of this year. Additionally, it gets rid of that 75 to 25% distinction between having to spend 75% of the PPP on payroll. It eliminates that completely. Any of those categories, payroll, rent, and utilities, are now eligible for you to spend that PPP fund if this bill passes all the way through the end of this year. If you're watching this and you are a state or local government, which would be a really weird thing to do, then you will receive some piece of the $1 trillion that is going to be allocated for you to fill in your budget gaps. As anyone is aware, states are absolutely reeling right now because they're losing a ton of revenue and they're having to pay way more in unemployment insurance and other benefits as well. For example, in California, we were headed into this year with a couple $2 billion surplus, and now we're looking at a $50 billion deficit. The idea is here, if this $1 trillion flows to the states, then the states can continue providing their services and they won't have to raise taxes, which would therefore speed the recovery when the recovery starts to begin. Speaking of state and local governments, the cap on deductions from state and local taxes, also known as the SALT deduction cap of $10,000, is going to be eliminated if this bill passes. There's also $200 billion here allocated for hazard pay for affected individuals who are still working and are not receiving hazard pay at the moment. The exact details of how that's going to be allocated have yet to be ironed out, but there is $200 billion for those people here. Additionally, this bill includes additional protections and moratoriums on evictions for those who are renting or who are a mortgage holder, and that expands all the way until the end of this year. And really, there is just so much in this bill. I'm gonna actually read through these 1,800 pages and read especially in detail the key relevant parts that you're gonna want to know. So be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay informed, because I'm gonna be making additional follow-up videos to this bill, breaking it down further, letting you know the status of it, and letting you know the status of any of the developments that are going on right now with respect to additional stimulus payments or stimulus measures.